A Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone, and this is another in our podcast series where we talk to fundraising managers from charities all over the world, and we talk about their running experiences, their fundraising experiences, and get some great advice from them, which will help you on your running and fundraising journeys. And today we are really pleased to welcome Kat from the beautiful northwest of England. She'll tell us exactly where and who she works for. So welcome, Kat. Give us a little bit of your background and how you got into running.
Hello. Yes, my name's Kat. I work for a charity called CancerCare. We are a local charity and our head office based in Lancaster. And we have a centre in Kendal, Harrow and Morecambe. I've been with the charity for 7 years now. My role is Deputy Head of Fundraising. We support families and individuals, and we approximately support around 2,000 people per year. And our therapies are complementary, and they range from counselling to aromatherapy massage, work groups, allotments, whole range of different therapies. So we're an amazing local charity. And so I do a bit of running myself. My running started after I'd had children. So I have 2 young children, and I decided I need to get into fitness. And I started running. And the first thing I did was on a freezing cold January morning, I did red January, so run every day. And I started doing just a kilometre, just a K. So every day, just a K. I got out around the children. I think my youngest was about 9 months old, and I just did a K, which crept up to 2, to 3, to 4, until I did my first 5K race. And I remember my first 5K race was actually a colour dash down the prom in Morecambe, covered in colour, covered in paint, and it was just a charity colour dash run, and it was great. I had my daughter at the finish line, lots of friends running it, and it was just a really simple, basic race, and it really did help my fitness levels getting into it. And even though it was a dark, miserable January, it was something that once I set my mind to it, just to run every day, just a short distance, built my confidence up as a new mum. Definitely was a great way to get into running. So at the start, I didn't push it. So it was a bit of walking, bit of jogging. But yeah, I'd already previously done a bit of CrossFit, so I wasn't afraid for my children. It was sort of not starting from afresh with my fitness, but I'd never run before. It wasn't something I'd ever done before. It wasn't something I'd ever really wanted to try. But I think being a new mum and being able to just open your front door and go running, I didn't have to think about gym classes, how to get there A to B, just the simplicity of let's go on a run. And I think committing to that, so committing to running every day, sometimes I'd go out. I remember having a head torch, and going out at 9 o'clock at night. And I did it with a neighbour as well. I think having that companionship to do a run with. So we both committed to it, and we just started little, jogs around the village, the local village where I lived. And then each day we just built up, and, there was no pressure. It was if we needed to jog a little bit, if we needed to walk, it's just making sure we committed to doing a little bit every day. And it is surprising how much you can build up, with that commitment and that perseverance to achieve something. And we did it for charity, which was lovely as well.
So where did things go from there then? Where did the 5K lead to?
Yeah, so I built up a little bit more within my CrossFit, and my strength came back. And I did a 10K. So within Lancaster, we have a running community called Lancaster Race Series, and I did one on Mother's Day. So that was a 10K one, which was quite a difficult route. So it was lovely and flat to start with. It was down the Lancaster Canal, so lovely. Didn't think much of it. Lovely route. And then when you get to Lancaster Castle, which is on top of this massive, massive hill. And I remember thinking, oh my God, am I going to get to the top? It goes all the way around and right at the top of the castle. But it was a beautiful scenic run. I remember feeling ecstatic that I'd achieved a 10K. I never thought I'd ever achieve something like that. So I was really, really pleased. And then I continued from there. So after a 10K, we, within our CrossFit community, we did something every new year, and it's called Clovis, which is a hero WOD. And this particular workout was a 10-mile run followed by 150 burpee pull-ups. So I never entertained being able to do this before. So I did my CrossFit, but I never thought I'd do a 10-mile run followed by 150 burpee pull-ups. But I put my name down for it, and it was It was New Year to do a challenge on New Year's Day. I absolutely loved it, and I've kept to this now. So every New Year's Day, whether it's somewhere as extreme of Clovis or it's just getting out and doing a run, I love starting the year with a challenge. So yeah, 10 miles and 150 burpee pull-ups, and that's something that I did for probably about 4 years every New Year's Day.
So how many events have you done altogether now then? And what's the furthest you've done?
So the furthest I've done is a half marathon. So I've not done a full marathon yet, should I say yet. So my furthest one is a half marathon, and I've done a few half marathons. I remember one day just going out and saying to my husband, just popping out on a run, and I actually came back and I'd done my first half marathon, which was brilliant. I wanted that, no pressure of actually doing it for an organised event. I just went out and thought, I'm going to give it a go. And so I've done a couple of local half marathons, and then for the charity I work for CancerCare, I decided to do the Great North Run. And that was a fantastic event. The atmosphere, the adrenaline, the event itself, it was just fantastic. And I really did train for this run. So it wasn't something that I just committed to and I thought, I'll give it a go. I took on a training plan, and I probably was the fittest I ever was at this point. I really did want to make sure I did it justice. And it's not a PB run because it's so busy, there's people everywhere. But I felt really good. I felt really confident. Yeah, I loved it. It was one of my favourite ever races. That was a brilliant one.
And what tips have you got for people that are starting out as you did to progress up through to a half marathon?
I think it's dedication. So I think sticking to your plan. So I think having something to work towards, a goal. So, having something like run every day, or having a community of runners, or just saying it out loud, saying this is what my goal is, this is what my target is, or choosing a local charity that's close to your heart that you want to do it for, or in memory of someone's a lovely thing to do, because it really does give you that passion, that energy and drive to achieve what it is your goal, whether that is just a mile to start with, whatever your goal, and not putting too much pressure on yourself, if you do need to walk or jog. So, if I was going to go and do a run now, which I would have to start training for again, sometimes you do an event and then you have a bit of a break or you try something new. So it's giving yourself that space and that being kind to yourself that, you should really train. And I did a run it was this New Year's Day challenge. A friend said to me, we're doing, it's Nicky Nook, which is a small hill, quite a large hill near where we live in Scorton. And it was a lap of 16-mile run. So you run all the way up to the top, back down, all the way up, back down 3 times. And then you go back into the gym, and they were doing a movement in the gym with a barbell, clean and jerk. So you do 30 max clean and jerks after the 16 miles. And I was like, oh, this is quite a big challenge. But I put my name down to it. I think I'll think about it later. And I didn't train for this run. So I hadn't been good. And I'd been doing my other sports. I've been doing my Olympic lifting, but I hadn't trained for the run aspect of this. I think I did one lap of it previous just to see because I'm not a fell runner. I don't go up and down a lot. And the first, 5 miles we tried was okay. And then I thought, I'll just do it on the day. And I did hurt my knee because of going down. I didn't really do a lot of up and down hill running. So again, it's really preparing for what you're doing, thinking about it, thinking about, yes, it might be okay on the day, but the repercussions of that afterwards. So I did hurt my knee doing that. The 30 clean and jerks were okay, but the going downhill. And I think sometimes the inexperience of doing something like that, I wasn't used to going downhill. I probably went too fast, different things like that. But yes, I think there's being kind to yourself, understanding your limits and training well.
You touched on your weightlifting activity there. What impact has that had on your running?
Yes. So I've been doing Olympic weightlifting for about 2 years now. I'd always dabbled into it with CrossFit. And I thought after I'd had an operation on my wrists 2 years ago, I thought I'm just going to concentrate on weightlifting because CrossFit was a bit tricky with my wrists. And I absolutely love weightlifting. I do Olympic weightlifting, which is the snatch and the clean and jerk, but it doesn't really go hand in hand with running. So I tend to not do many running events, but I probably don't do as much as I should because I think it's really good for your general fitness to run. You need that with the lifts, you need that energy, you need that that bounce. You need to be having that general overall fitness. So I should definitely get into a bit more training So I should set myself a little goal for later this year.
You touched on your how good it is to run for a charity. And have you got any sort of tips that work really well for you?
Yeah, so we get involved in so many different running events. So we get a lot of our supporters choosing various different races. So this weekend, for example, we've had a couple took part in the Paris Marathon, and we've also had a daughter and father take part in London Landmarks Half Marathon. So we support people in different ways. So they might come to us and they might ask some advice, what events you've got, a bit about the distance, a bit about the locality. And the couple that have just done the Paris Marathon wanted to do a race abroad. It'd always been something on their bucket list. And so we start by looking about, their commitments, what's happening in the world that's quite local to them. And they really loved the idea of the Paris Marathon. A lot of preparation went into their training. They did a lot of different types of running for this race. They were brilliant with their fundraising. They managed to raise for our charity, including gift aid, over £9,000, which is just amazing. They shared their Just Giving page within their workplace, within the community. We did a post on their behalf. I think it's really about sharing your story. What connection do you have to the charity that you're raising funds for? Have you access to services? Are they close to your heart? Have you lost somebody for that? And that's why you're raising the money. If it's something close to your heart, if it's in memory, if you've lost somebody and you're saying, this is what I'm doing, I'm raising money to give back something to this charity, to the community, people do get behind you. And I think we find with a lot of fundraising pages that once you've done the race, the activity, you tend to increase your pages by around 25% because people love to say, well done, congratulations. People love to see them finishing pictures. So we always recommend to obviously share your fundraising pages before the race, but do get in touch with everyone after you've done that race and say, look, I've done it. And we tend to find about 25% of donations come in after the page, after the supporters finish the event. And people do still like the old-fashioned ways of fundraising. We still give out a lot of buckets. We give out a lot of sponsorship forms. People still love doing that. We love the traditional fundraising methods like cake sales. We have people that book sales, all sorts of things. So don't forget the grassroots approaches to fundraising. Lots of stuff is on social media, lots of things is online, but do get the community involved, do hold a book sale, do, bake cakes and sell them on your street corner because it's a lovely way to tell people about what you're doing. And we love the grassroots community fundraising. So don't forget to think about doing things like that.
Mhm.
And it's also, it's is there any way that you work for, your employer? Is there any match funding available? We get a lot of people that go to employers and they actually match fund that sponsorship that you raise, which is, to double your donations is just amazing. And just lastly, don't forget gift aid. When you're talking to your supporters, the gift aid on an extra 25% on your donations is just amazing. It makes such a difference to the charity. So, always just mention to your friends and family not to forget to tick that gift aid box.
And what's been personally your most successful? Did you fundraise at the Great North?
Yes, I fundraised for my Great North Run, which was, I raised a lot for my Great North Run, but I think that was more a little bit like what I was just explaining then. It wasn't all online. So I think some people are nervous to ask people for money. People are nervous to say, I'm doing this. Would you sponsor me? So people do like to say, right, today at work, I've made a big pan of soup, everyone, chip in. So I think I did a lot of that for my Great North Run. It was, and I did it with my husband as well, so it was a bit of a joint fundraiser. What else do I raise a lot of money for? My events. I think my skydive was my biggest one.
And how much did you raise from that?
I remember now, it was for my 40th. So my lovely siblings, I didn't ask to do a skydive, but it was my 40th birthday and I got a little thing in the post and I opened it up and my two brothers and my sister had purchased me a skydive for my 40th. So that was a surprise, not something I really wanted to do on my to-do list. But as a fundraiser, I was like, come on then, because
Wow.
like, I think this is a really important thing as a fundraiser is that you experience the event, like as a runner, as a skydiver, whatever it is you're asking the public to do, whatever you're asking your supporters to do. I think it's vital that you try and take on some of these challenges yourself. So you've got that experience of how they logistically work, but also what it takes to jump out of a plane, what it takes to run a half marathon. It's not only the commitment to doing that, but also it's the what does it look like on the day? Where do you collect your t-shirt? How do you sign up? How do I raise the money? It's something that you can then pass on that advice to all your supporters. You know what it's like to raise money, and you can say to them, I raised it by doing this. I did this. I did a sponsored car wash, etc. So yeah, I think it's always worth taking on a few different challenges to raise money.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think it's fantastic for people in your position to be doing these events and getting that experience so you can pass that on. Well, you've certainly got a big challenge coming up of another sort, haven't you? Because what we haven't mentioned is that Kat's race director for a very significant event that's coming up in July. So give us a bit of detail on that one, Kat.
Yeah, so this is probably this is my biggest event I've ever organised. So it is the CancerCare Cross Bay Half Marathon. This is an event that CancerCare has done before, but hasn't been achieved for over 10 years. So we've had a 10-year break. And this is an event that is massive logistically. There's so much that goes into the planning of this. So this is a race that takes you from one location across the bay to another location, still believed to be the only race in the world that crosses a tidal bay. So there's lots of risks, there's lots of logistics, but it's also such a bucket list run. It's the outstanding beauty of running across the bay, the challenge, the natural environment that can affect on the day, the route, the logistic. Honestly, it's massive. It's something that I'm as equally excited as I am nervous about. I am, I think, slightly obsessed with this event at the moment. The beautiful thing about this event is it's making history. So it's led by two Guide to the Sands. These are the King's Guide to the Sands. So we have Michael Wilson, who's leading the race at the front, and he is the official guide to the sand. So he will be at the front of the runners on a tractor. So he will lead the race. And then we have the second King's Guide to the Sand, Raymond Porter, who will be at the rear of the race. So he will make sure all the runners are safe towards the back. There'll be approximately 6 other tractors on the bay, potentially some horses as well. We'll also have some security and marshals on foot who won't be standing on the bay because you can't stand still. So when you get out into the bay, there is risks out there. So you can't stay stationary on the bay. You have to keep moving. There is a big channel that we have to cross. The channel comes into the race about 2 miles in. Now, the depth and the width of the channel does vary season to season. So the route itself isn't one we can actually pinpoint on a map. So we know that we leave Arnside and we know that we're going to arrive in Flutburn in Carp and we will cross the bay and we'll cross the channel. But until the season starts, which starts in May till September, haven't been on the sands for the season. So we need to look at the sands, the conditions, and then plot out the exact route that we will cross the bay. But you are guaranteed to have an amazing run, an amazing day, and it's such a bucket list opportunity that I'm just so honoured to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many race directors, I would have thought, around the world who don't know what route their course is going to follow until 3 months beforehand. So you can't produce a map of the course until May at the earliest. And even then, it's going to be flexible, presumably.
It's not actually finalised until the night before because you have to take in the elements. You have to think about the weather. If we have a lot of rainfall, if the it depends on the condition of the sands. Safety of our runners is the first thing we think about. So if there's one particular area we think we have to avoid, and that's last minute, we will change. So the run will be tried and be tested, but we will go out the night before and we will go over the route. And if there is a slight change, we will. We do have a plan B and C, D, E, F, and G, but our plan B. So the run will go ahead. So we will cross the bay, whatever. But if there is some chance that there is an issue with the channel, we will not put the runners at risk. We will start at Flutburn. We will go out and back route, which will that's our plan B. But plan A is very likely to happen, and we can cross the tidal bay and come back into Floodborough. But the safety of our runners is the most important. So yeah, we know the approximate route, and every year we do the Cross Bay walks. So I will be on the sands. My Cross Bay walk this year for CancerCare is on Father's Day on the 21st of June. So I'll be walking the bay that day, and the season starts at May. So thousands of walkers going out on the bay from May till September, and our run is on the 4th of July. So the guide to the sands will have a good idea of the condition of the sands, what to expect. So yeah, we're very, very, very excited about the Cross Bay Half Marathon.
And how far is the walk?
So the walk's not as far as half marathon. It's approximate because obviously, again, we do not know the condition of the sands. So it's approximate between 6 and 8 miles. So the Cross Bay walk is one of CancerCare's biggest fundraisers of the year. He last year raised around £22,000. We have 500 walkers each year taking on the bay for us. And that was raised from all 500 walkers, which was such an amazing amount. Every year we feel so honoured and blessed that so many people take on this challenge for us. And this walk again is on Father's Day for us. We love it being on Father's Day. We really encourage families to come out and do this walk. It's great preparation for our runners as well to come and experience the bay. So I will let all our runners know about this, come and have a look at the bay and come, do this walk and just get used to it, because it's not an environment that runners will be typically used to running on. It's beautiful, and you never quite know what the weather's going to be like out on the bay, which is something else our runners need to be aware of.
One of the things I'm very interested in with events is the costs of putting them on, because I think a lot of runners have really very little awareness of how incredibly expensive events are to stage, and sometimes the entry fee doesn't even cover the cost. What are your principal costs in a race like this?
It's a very valid point, Tim. People don't realise when they pay that ticket cost that's most of that, majority of that, is not actually going to the charity, which is why we ask people to fundraise. We're quite open and transparent on our walks, so we explain X amount of this is covering your ticket cost, which is paid down to the Guide to the Sands who organises it, and the rest comes to the charity. So I think it's really transparent that we are open with our participants, and we do say this is the ticket cost, X amount goes to the organisers, this goes here. So we're quite aware of that, and we try and make our supporters aware of that as well. It's really important at this stage that we look on the return of investment. What are we going to bring back into the charity? What is actually going to be actual profit for the charity? What are we going to make from this day? And it's really nerve-wracking. It's looking at numbers now. So we've just had our 100th runner sign up to the Cross Bay Half Marathon, which is brilliant to have 100 runners at this point. But we want more runners. We want to get up to the 500 mark. We would love to. So it's making sure that the risks are really thought through. What happens if we don't reach enough runners? What happens if they don't fundraise? What happens if the weather's terrible, if the event have to be moved? There is lots of issues that we need to think about, and even the cost of portaloos. Everything's expensive. So it is really something that it's on my mind every day. Yeah, definitely.
What are the sort of entry price options then?
So to take on the Cross Bay Half Marathon, we have 2 options available. One we're classing as a self-funded ticket, which means the supporter pays £100 to CancerCare, and there's no fundraising element to this. So we know that quite a lot of runners run multiple races across the year, and they don't want to fundraise for every race. So this is just a ticket that costs £100, and there's no obligation to fundraise. Of course you can, but there's no obligation to fundraise. The other ticket is what we're classing as a sponsorship ticket. So this ticket is £55, and that is for your ticket to run the race. And then the agreement is that they encourage the supporters to raise a minimum of £150 sponsorship. Which once you get going on your Just Giving page, that is very manageable, and runners are already meeting that have gone down that route. So yeah, 2 different options depending on what it is you're wanting to achieve and how you want to run your race.
Right, okay. So give us the exact date of the race and how people can enter.
So the race is on Saturday, the 4th of July, and the run starts at 9 a.m. from Arnside. And you can book via our website, which is www.cancercare.org.uk. and you'll see on there a whole different page around our events, and you can click on the Cross Bay Half Marathon, and that will take you through to Try Booking, which is our booking system. And on there, there's lots of, obviously explains the 2 different ticket options. There's also a ticket for a coach, and the coach takes you from the finish line to the start line. So your car's there at the end, and all your change of clothes, whatever you need. So at the finish line, we are creating a runner's village. So we'll have food vendors, drinks, refreshments, stalls. It's going to be a lovely atmosphere. So please do bring along your friends and your family, a couple of chairs, and get everyone to come and watch you. Because hopefully, the weather will be beautiful and glorious, and it'd be a lovely day for you to bring along everyone to come and watch you.
Have you got any sponsors signed up yet?
So we haven't at the moment. We're in talks with quite a few companies, but if anyone's listened to this and they would like to be involved, we have got lots of stalls lined up. But for that overall sponsorship, we have 2 packages available, and we would love to have any conversations with you. I think now that the logistics of the event's all organised, we have our runners information pack, we have our sponsorship pack, we have all our timings, everything's ready to go now. So I would love any conversations with, potentially, if you're a potential runner that might like to sign up but have got a couple of questions, or if you are listening and you're in the opportunity to discuss some sponsorship deals, I'd be more than happy to have some conversation.
Great stuff. Well, I'm going to be there. I can't wait. It's going to be
Yay.
a fantastic day. I've no doubt. Whatever route we end up doing, it will be memorable. It's one of the most scenic bays in the world. There's no doubt about that. And a really unique event. I think a lot of people are looking for that uniqueness, aren't they? And do something like this is once in a lifetime opportunity. So, looking forward to it.
Yes, I won't be running it myself, Tim. I'll be there on the sidelines cheering you on and organising it, but hopefully one year I'll get to run it as well.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have your hands full this year, aren't you? For sure.
Yes, definitely.
All right, really, really appreciate you coming on, Kat, and for sharing your running journey and your fundraising tips, and for telling us all about this fantastic race.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.